And it's 10 minutes in front of 8 o'clock. I'm Eddie Stubbs. Welcome into our monthly Intimate Evening Series. If you're just joining us, we're live from the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. Sam Bush is our special guest tonight, and we appreciate him giving up his Monday evening to come down and be with us. And before we went to the break, we were talking about the fact that we were going to get to hear some music live, and he's got his mandolin. He brought his fiddle, too. And you've got Stephen Mogen, who plays in your group, to come along tonight and accompany you on the guitar. And y'all were doing a sound check in here earlier, and you were picking and singing a little bit both, so I'm not sure. What have you got up your sleeve? Other than your arm.
No, just well, not a lot of muscle, that's for sure. But we thought maybe we'd when you're in this building, it makes you think about some of the great performers that you have seen. And I've already made mention of Grandpa Jones, so maybe we'll do an old Grandpa Jones tune.
So why don't we do that? Then?
You ready? You want us to do it?
Let's,
Shall we?
As he moves over to the stage portion here on the floor. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome Stephen Mogen there on the guitar. And with the mandolin, our special guest tonight, Sam Bush, here on 650 AM WSM.
Countrywide seeking fortune fair, up and down both coastlines I've traveled everywhere, from Portland east to Portland west and all along the line. I'm going now to the place that's best, that old hometown of mine. Oh, 8 more miles to Louisville will come into my view. 8 more miles on this old road and I'll never more be blue. I knew someday that I'd come back, I knew it from the start. 8 more miles to Louisville, the hometown of my heart. Now you might have a gal somewhere that you like best of all. Mine comes down from Louisville, she's little and she's small. She's the kind you just can't find rambling through the land. I'm on my way this very day to win her heart and hand. Oh, 8 more miles to Louisville will come into my view. 8 more miles on this old road and I'll never more be blue. I knew someday that I'd come back, I knew it from the start. 8 more miles to Louisville, the hometown of my heart. I can picture in my mind a place we'll call our home. A humble little plot for two we'll never have to roam. The place that's right for that love side is in them bluegrass hills, where it gently flows the Ohio by a place called Louisville. Oh, 8 more miles to Louisville will come into a view. 8 more miles on this old road and I'll never more be blue. I knew someday that I'd come back, I knew it from the start. 8 more miles to Louisville, the hometown of my heart. Oh, 8 more miles to Louisville will come into view. 8 more miles on this old road and I'll never more be blue.
8 more miles to Louisville. That's great sounds right there from Sam Bush. Stephen Mogen there playing the guitar and singing the tenor to him. Mighty fine job. And I happened to see this fiddle back here. And Sam mentioned he started out on the mandolin. And I thought, well, that fiddle's laying there. News can wait just a moment if you don't mind. With a tip of the hat there to Grandpa Jones on that one. What would you like to fiddle for the folks here tonight?
Well, we'll do one that this had to be my dad's favorite tune in the world. And
Key of C?
You knew that.
I know the tune.
I know that, and I'm sure if he ever was at a jam session you were at, he asked you to play one in the key of C. And I think John Hartford once said it. The foremost authority in the key of C on the fiddle, Charlie Bush. So this was one that he loved, and the Tennessee Wagner.
That was good to us right there. Whew. Tennessee Wagner right there. That's played by Sam Bush. Wow, that was good to us. It was good to me and good to all of us here.
And even with a tie on.
Even with a tie on, it was good to you too.
Managed to hold on to the fiddle for a whole tune.
I love that fiddling. And you were talking about your dad earlier, and he was so important musically, but, he was also a great connection traditionally, talking about the traditional side. And our next hour, we're going to talk about more of the contemporary side of what Sam has been involved in musically. But your world and the respect that you had from people like Roy Acuff and Grandpa Jones and Bashful Brother Oswald and people like Howdy Forrester, fiddle players, and many others along the way. Not everybody was that privileged. There's a wonderful picture out there I've seen. I believe Les Leverett may have taken it. And here you are in blue jeans and a T-shirt and this long hair down below your shoulders. It's got all these pretty waves in it. And there you are talking in a deep conversation with Roy Acuff in a white shirt and a necktie. It's like two generations that shouldn't be communicating, but are having the most, you can look at these people and tell they're into one another. And, not everybody had that respect, of the younger generation of your contemporaries. They didn't have the respect of some of the elder statespeople in the business, but you had that.
Well, I was lucky enough to meet them early, and get to be around the world of the Grand Ole Opry, because it is its own. I mean, for people that have never gotten to stand on the side of the stage and see how you do the Grand Ole Opry and how the performers come off and on the stage, what's going on backstage, people rehearsing and preparing for tunes, and maybe they're learning, some of the sidemen are making their charts and they're learning their tunes right on the spot. And so, I mean, and it's one of those things, as you're going through it as a kid, you just assume everybody does that and big deal. But yeah, the older I've gotten, the more I can appreciate the opportunities to get around great players. And for instance, when we first met Mr. Acuff, we met Bashful Brother Oswald first. My dad and I had come down, and back then I'd come down to Nashville, I should say, from Bowling Green. And back then, the Roy Acuff exhibit, what was it? Would it be called the Roy Acuff Museum? Mm-hmm. Okay, so they always just called it the exhibit, and so my dad and I come down, and we were going to try to go down to the Grand Ole Opry. My father made the acquaintance of Jerry Rivers, who used to play the fiddle with Hank Williams, and Jerry said thought he could get us in the Opry that night. So we jumped at the chance, and we came down. And I guess I was around 14, perhaps, when this occurred, maybe 13, maybe 14. And we go in the Roy Acuff exhibit and museum. We wanted to see all this. My father was a huge Roy Acuff fan. I mean, Roy Acuff and Hank Williams were his most, that's maybe his favorite musicians. Patsy Cline, Cowboy Copas, and Hawkshaw Hawkins he really loved. And so we go in the exhibit, and sitting there in a necktie, which shocked us, in a white shirt and tie, was Bashful Brother Oswald himself taking tickets. So we got to talking to Oswald, and
this was all down on Broadway, by the way,
yes,
years ago.
I guess between 4th and 5th on Broadway. Yeah. And now, I must admit, back then, my father could embarrass me all the time, because he'd always tell people, well, I've got this boy that plays the fiddle, and
you ought to hear him play the Wagner.
That's pretty much, yeah. I went and...
Not the Tennessee Wagner, the Wagner.
The Wagner, and I'd be the shy kid in the back wishing that he wasn't talking about me. Well, Oswald ran and got a fiddle out of the back and had me play it for him. And and then Oz got right on the phone, and we didn't know who he was calling. He goes, "Hello, Roy, you got to get down here. We got a boy that can fiddle." So within the hour, Mr. Acuff comes in, and now it's getting pretty intimidating. There's,
the king of
country music just walked in, and I mean, it's pretty intimidating. And so then I played some more for Mr. Acuff, and then later that night we found ourselves backstage. So, and I was already a fan of Howdy Forster, the great Howdy Forster that played for Roy so many years. And to this day, nobody could play more progressively or beautifully, or just the inventions that he brought to the country fiddle were amazing. Great tunes that he wrote. And so now I'm really overwhelmed, and Howdy Forster comes in, and they called him Big Howdy. Well, I was 5'4". Everybody was big. So, my memories of Howdy Forster, he's probably 10 feet tall in my memories of him. And so he comes in, he goes, this something to, and Howdy was, quite maybe as outgoing as Oswald was, the way Oswald could befriend people. So he's kind of like, so you're the kid that plays the fiddle?
Let's hear what you can do.
Well, here, play something. And once again, you don't have your own fiddle, and I have trouble playing my fiddle, much less anybody else's. So he hands me his fiddle, and I'm just really terrified now. Now Howdy Forster's watching. And I just remember my body language must have been where my shoulders were about to meet each other in the front, and I was just balled way down and just really intimidated. And all of a sudden, Howdy just stopped me and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Son, when you play that thing, you get up there and play it proud. Act like you can play. Get up there and don't you be apologizing while you play to me."
Whoa.
And so, I said, "Yes, sir." And so, right off the bat, Howdy Forster call him the bus driver, because he took me to school right then. And later that night, Mr. Acuff was playing. He was playing on the Ernest Tubb Record Shop later that night after the Opry, and I did play a fiddle tune with him that night. And I don't think Charlie was with him yet. I'm not sure if Charlie Collins was there yet or not.
Wow, all this on your first day to Nashville to come to the Opry and going to the museum and meeting all these people backstage at the Opry playing on Ernest Sub Record Shop. Wow.
It was amazing, and I do remember where I was sitting because that was also the first time I saw Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys, and I was a huge fan of Bill Monroe and already as a mandolin player, and I'll never forget where I was sitting in the Ryman Auditorium. He had 2 fiddle players, and he did that beautiful old tune called "You'll Find Her Name Written There," and there was a young boy from Boston, Massachusetts named Pete Rowans on the guitar. So Peter Rowan was on guitar, and I met Peter that night. We still are pals. We're going to play together in Telluride, Colorado this year in June.
Wow. This man's history is very deep. He's got a great connection to the past and a great connection to tradition. He knows where it all came from, but he's also been extremely cutting edge. When we come back after this break, we're going to talk more about the different directions that he's taken the music, the popularity that he's accrued over the years, and a big honor that he just received from his home state of Kentucky. All that's coming up right here on 650 AM WSM.